Stories Untold was odd. I felt pretty disappointed with it as I approached the halfway point, apparently in contrast to most other reviewers. And then as the ending came, again in contrast with most other reviewers, I saw the game return to the glory of its opening segment and close the narrative out on an extended reveal sequence that was actually very well crafted with solid character drama and some surprising turns. This game originally appears to be just straight up ripping off the general aesthetic and opening sequence of Stranger Things, but the odd thing is that I didn't feel like I was playing an 80s horror compilation, which is what it advertises, not really at all, during the whole playtime. If there's one big failing to this title and one thing that holds it back from being a 5-star game, it's that for me. The short stories were, from the very beginning, pretty obviously connected. Now yes, the first episode feels distinct, almost a little too distinct from the other episodes, but that's because it was originally created as a standalone project prior to the development of this game, and it seems the developers intended to make other stories in the vein of that one and then tie them all together with the frame story, like in old horror compilations. Again, what this game kind of advertises itself as. The only thing is they don't really accomplish that, and every episode after the first up until the very end just feels too similar and too unfinished and abrupt. The game promises that each individual story holds up on its own and has its own twist. And yeah, I guess if sinister events happening in a plot counts as a twist, then yeah, each has a twist. But if you're here expecting some true madness, some true shocks to your system or something to keep you up, nothing but the first and last episodes really supply that kind of drama, or that kind of awe, shock and awe. And even the first episode ends kind of abruptly and without much resolution. It's clearly some kind of RD text adventure shit. My point is, it's just so clear that the first episode was its own thing and that the following episodes all hailed from some singular, somewhat uninspired story meeting or something. And neither of the two middle episodes have any kind of resolution to them and only hint at basic horror tropes, not embracing them fully the way a horror compilation generally does. It just doesn't feel like a collection of short stories. And I immediately picked up on plenty of clues towards the somewhat unimaginative twist. So anyway, the first episode is great. It has a great meta twist. It ends in an esoteric fashion. It leaves quite an impression, probably mostly because it's pants shittingly terrifying, especially for what is essentially a text adventure. The writing is fantastic, and you feel so immersed with the extra dimensions the presentation affords the format. With great sound design and a consistent and beautiful aesthetic, it all turns this story into challenging, surprising nightmare fuel. It sets the bar a little too high, if I'm honest, for everything that's to follow. Then comes the second episode. It's essentially an adaptation of Milgram's Experiment that ends with some honest-to-God aliens letting you tap into their powers and control their hive mind or something, which of course eventually manifests itself as a meta text adventure. I won't really get into the Surgeon Simulator BS this section puts you through, because it all works fine, I guess. It's functional. I just wish twisting and turning the knobs didn't bring back horrible carpal tunnel flashbacks to working on a song for 12 hours on GarageBand and wanting to toss my fucking MacBook out of a fucking window because the knobs just go in whatever direction they feel like going. And now comes the third episode, and this one is probably my least favorite, by far. For one, it's mostly puzzling this time around, and by puzzling I of course mean repeating the same simple bullshit tasks using this horrible little reader that has way too many knobs and little adjustments on it to translate codes and tune Brady. It's horrible. It's horrible. I hate it. Doing the Morse code puzzle made me feel smart a little, but I still hated doing it. And to top it all off, this episode ends with an FPS segment that isn't scary, isn't challenging, and it doesn't relay any information about the actual plot of either this episode or any of the other episodes. Except, I guess, it makes it clear right before the episode ends that this was never a compilation of horror stories to begin with. It lets us in on that little clue, like it wasn't already fucking obvious. And that you're playing the same dude in this story too, because they start saying, Mr. Asian, wake up. And you know, just in case you didn't catch it on the monitor earlier, that it actually said his name. Like I saw that. Me and my girlfriend saw that immediately. And they keep telling you, wake up, remember, come back to us. And every other stupid, he's been in a coma, he's crazy, he's guilty cliche they could think of. And if you're worried about how all this will tie up, you probably won't like what you're about to see. The final episode starts, and we're a patient at a hospital watching old horror shows on VHS, and it's called Stories Untold. So there's that explained for you. And then it's revealed in a totally surprising way that you've been in a coma or something, or were in a coma because a drunk driver hit you and your sister's dead. And so you think, wow, that was anticlimactic and stupid. But the game just keeps going, and you find tapes saying that your character has something to hide maybe, and teases us with like a real twist, which comes in the form of another text adventure. It's here that the presentation shines the most in the whole game, and the twist at the heart of everything is good. It's honestly well done, and the way the text adventure works as like an analog for like drunkenness at the end is really, really clever. Your character ends up having to face up to all the things they've done, but the game still kind of ends in like a little bit of a cruel way, which did kind of remind me of old horror compilations, implying that James Ashen will live in a mental hospital for the rest of his life now that he's finally admitted what he's done. It's pulled off pretty well. Okay. 4 stars. Yeah, so after all that, I have my gripes with the story, and it really does have to be played all at once in a single setting to feel properly paced. But its presentation, its clever ideas, mixing text adventure and classic horror tropes with well-done character drama and meta stylings, it's all very intoxicating. Its biggest sin is that it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, and I wish there was more of it. But I heartily recommend this game to fans of horror, because if nothing else, the story here is told both compellingly and authentically, not simply just trying to hit all the beats or make itself seem clever. It just tries to tell a tragic story wrapped up in cleverness, to just make the message hit that much harder. It has a point. For $10, you simply have to give it a try.
That accident, that poor man, me, you have to remember, it was all your fault.